Here are the top stories of the news. One person has been confirmed dead in this morning's multiple crashes on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. EFCC files for a stay of execution of the judgment of an High Court jailing the chairman of the commission. On the foreign scene, Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan defends government's response to two catastrophic earthquakes. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Okwayemioni. We begin as one person was killed in this morning's multiple crashes on the Kara Bridge outward of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It was gathered that about 7 vehicles, including a container-laden truck, were involved in the multiple accidents that paralyzed the movement and left motorists and travelers on the road stranded in nerve-wracking gridlock. Already, first responders, including officers of the Federal Road Safety Corps and the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, have arrived at the scene. The Ogun State FRSC Sector Commander, Ahmed Umar, told newsmen that the traffic hawker was killed in the unfortunate accident, adding that emergency responders are still rescuing those injured. Mr. Umar attributed the accident to brakes failure, while the truck whose driver rammed into the vehicles in front of him from behind. Ahead of the February 25 presidential election, former President Olusegun Obasanjo says Nigeria's polls are crucial in determining who pilots the nation's affairs for the next 4 years. He called on Nigeria's voters to take the elections with all the seriousness it deserves, saying their voices matter. Obasanjo said this while hosting the members of the Board of Trustees of the African Democratic Congress at his penthouse in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. He noted that Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire are concerned about what happens in Nigeria, as every Nigerian should be. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, yesterday briefed the Federal Executive Council chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja. With only 16 days to the presidential elections, Yakubu briefed the council on the commission's readiness for the nationwide exercise. This comes 2 days before an emergency meeting of the Council of State to be convened by President Buhari tomorrow to discuss the national crisis ensuing from the new naira and petrol scarcity, which has triggered pockets of protests nationwide. And now to legal matters, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja dismissed a suit by the Allied People's Movement, APM, seeking to disqualify Peter Obi as a presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Delivering judgment, the president of the court, Justice Monica Dongban-Mensah, dismissed the appeal on the grounds that the appeal lacked merit and the APM lacked the legal right to initiate the suit. The appellate court also awarded a cost of 200,000 naira against APM in favor of the Labour Party and Peter Obi, who are the second and third respondents in the suit. Mr. Obi is in the race alongside top contenders like Bola Tinubu of All Progressives Congress, APC, and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has filed a motion before the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal seeking a stay of execution of a judgment of a Kogi State High Court jailing the chairman of the commission, Abdulrasheed Bawa. The court, had in a suit between Ali Bello and the commission and others, gave a consequential order on the 6th of February 2023. Order relief sought in the motion and notice include an order of interlocutory injunction restraining the applicant from attempting to enforce the judgment of a trial court pending the final hearing and determination of the appeal. The Supreme Court of Nigeria has restrained the federal government from continuing with the full implementation of the demonetization policy. 3 northern states, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara, had in a motion ex parte filed on February 3rd, praised the Apex Court to halt the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesign policy. A 7-man panel of the Supreme Court led by Justice John Okoro in a unanimous ruling granted an interim injunction restraining the FG, CBN, and the commercial banks from implementing the February 10th deadline for the old 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes to stop being a legal tender. The court further held that the federal government, CBN, and commercial banks must not continue with the deadline pending the determination of a court on February 15th. By the ruling, the old naira notes continue to be legal tenders in Nigeria.
The reason for it is that as well-intentioned as this policy of federal government of design is working hardship all over the country. As we can all see, banks are being harassed, Nigerians are suffering needless, especially the downtrodden. Those in the urban areas, they're having problems, but it's more excruciating at the rural area. So these three state governments, Kaduna, Zamfara, and Kogi, deem it fit for us to invoke the powers of Supreme Court.
Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has condemned the Supreme Court for saving the Nigerian masses and democracy has commended the Supreme Court for saving the Nigerian masses and democracy by restraining the Central Bank of Nigeria from implementing the February 10 deadline on the phasing out of 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira notes. Wike spoke during the Rivers State People's Democratic Party (PDP) campaign in the Abua Odoa local government area, where he urged the people to preserve their permanent voter cards to vote for the candidates of the party at the state level. He also commended the government of the three states that filed the suit, stating that the Rivers State government would join the suit against the federal government. The governor stressed that the Supreme Court has, through the decision, proven that the judiciary is the hope of a common man. While President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday received the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, in Aso Rock, Abuja, the visit came hours after the Supreme Court yesterday ruled to stop the February 10 deadline for the validity of the three old naira notes. A seven-man panel of the Supreme Court, led by Justice John Okoro, in a unanimous ruling granted the interim injunction after an expert filed by Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara state governments. The highest court also held that the federal government and the Apex Bank must not contend of the hearing on February 15. The Osun State Police Command has warned members of the public to desist from the sale of and abuse of the naira notes. The command spokesperson, Yemisi Okpalola, made this known in a press statement where she stated that the move was in compliance with the federal government's policy and the directive of Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Alkali. The warning, which was targeted at point-of-sales POS operators and filling stations, advised that such acts should be jettisoned because the command had emplaced an intelligence unit to arrest and subsequently prosecute such individuals or groups engaged in the sale or abuse of naira notes. The statement also enjoined members of the public to cooperate with the police to ensure that violators were brought to book and prosecuted. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had admin issue created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back on Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of our stories. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has announced the reduction of transportation fare in the state by 50%. He made the announcement yesterday while addressing journalists at the Lagos House in the Marina area of the state. According to the governor, the price reduction in all state public transportation on the road and waterway system will take effect next week. Governor Sanwo-Olu noted that the BRT buses, first and last mile buses, have been directed to charge 50% of a current fare to reduce the hardship of a naira swap on residents. It is close that the state government has suspended the road construction along Buba, Marwa, Ijegun-Egba to ease fuel dispatch across the state and appeal to residents not to take advantage of economic challenge to perpetrate crime in the state.
But for us to further cushion the effects of what our citizens are currently facing, I've directed immediately that from tomorrow on all of our Lagos-run bus system, all of our BRT buses, on all of our lag ride taxis, all of our ferry boats, and all of our last mile buses and small buses that we have in the state, that they should be carrying passengers at 50% of the current fare. And this will continue to happen using their Cowrie card, and we want to further make the Cowrie card available to all willing citizens. We have over 3 million Cowrie cards that are out there that are being used, but we believe that we'll even make it.
The Nigeria Labour Congress NLC yesterday elected Joe Ajaero as its national president. Mr. Ajaero, who until his emergence as president was the deputy national president of a labor union, made history by emerging unopposed as union's president. Mr. Ajaero was also the general secretary of the Nigerian Union of Electricity Employees. He emerged as the NLC national president at the 13th National Delegates Conference of the Labor Union held at the International Conference Center in Abuja. The conference, which began yesterday, ended yesterday with the election of new national officers for a 4-year period. Mr. Ajaero succeeds Ayuba Waba, whose tenure as NLC national president ended yesterday. Now talking business, Disney chief executive Bob Iger has said he's cutting 7,000 jobs in a major shakeup of the entertainment giant. The layoffs are part of a plan to save $5.5 billion and make its Disney Plus streaming service profitable, which reported its first fall in subscribers since 2019. Mr. Iger said he did not make the decision lightly. He also revealed the first set of financial results since his return to the company in November, revealing continuing losses at Disney Plus. The job cuts amount to around 3.6% of Disney's workforce around the world. Meanwhile, Disney reported an 8% rise in sales to $23.5 billion between October and December last year. Profit also rose up by 11% to $1.3 billion. On the foreign scene, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has defended his government's response to 2 catastrophic earthquakes, saying it was impossible to prepare for the scale of the disaster. At least 15,000 people are confirmed dead in Turkey and northern Syria. Critics claimed the emergency services response was too slow and the government was poorly prepared. Mr. Erdogan accepted the government that encountered some problems, but said the situation was now under control. The leader of Turkey's main opposition party, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, however, disagreed, laying the blame at Erdogan's table. Speaking in Hatay, the president rejected the accusation and said unity was required in the aftermath of the disaster. Thousands of survivors have been spending a third night in freezing conditions, with hope fading for many trapped under the rubble. In Africa, the authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say the number of people killed during the latest protest against United Nations peacekeepers has risen to 8, with 28 others injured. The military governor of North Kivu province said the peacekeepers fired in self-defense when protesters attacked their convoy as it was returning to the city of Goma on Tuesday evening. Several UN trucks were set on fire and looted. Over the last year, there have been several protests against the UN peacekeeping force, which is widely criticized for failing to stop rebel attacks in eastern DR Congo. Last July, more than 30 people were killed during protests. A driver who rammed a bus into a busy nursery in Quebec, killing 2 children, has been charged with first-degree murder. 6 children were injured in the incident, including some who became trapped under the vehicle near Montreal yesterday. Police believe the suspect, named Perry Saint-Amand, deliberately drove the bus into the nursery during the morning drop-off, but they said a motive was unclear. The 51-year-old, who had been employed as a bus driver by the local public transit system for 10 years, was charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, aggravated assault, and assault with a weapon or causing bodily harm, while about a dozen others were injured, including the 6 children. Police said they did not expect any more fatalities. In a brief call to parents via video link, the suspect refused to speak during a hearing and was ordered by a judge to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. And now talking sports, Real Madrid has secured its place in the Club World Cup final with a 4-1 win against Egyptian club Al Ahly to keep alive its quest for a record-extending 8th world title. Vinicius Junior, Federico Valverde, Rodrigo and Sergio Arribas scored for the Spanish side at the sold-out Prince Moulay Abdallah Stadium in the Moroccan capital Rabat yesterday to set up a clash with Al Hilal. In Saturday's final, the Saudi Arabian team shocked Brazilian club Flamengo 3-2 on Tuesday. Madrid has won the World Club title a record 7 times, including 3 times when the competition was called the Intercontinental Cup, and is chasing its first World Club Cup title since 2018. Al Ahly, who beat MLS side Seattle Sounders and New Zealand's Auckland City on the way to semi-finals, stayed tight at the back, and Real Madrid initially tried to break them down. Madrid was without 6 injured players who did not travel to Morocco, including striker Karim Benzema. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. 1 person was killed in this morning's multiple crashes on the Kara Bridge outward of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed a motion before the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal, seeking a stay of execution of a judgment of a Kogi State High Court jailing the chairman of the commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa. On the foreign scene, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has defended his government's response to 2 catastrophic earthquakes, saying it was impossible to prepare for the scale of the disaster. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends news at 6, news at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Okwayemioni. Thanks for watching.